I'm Alan Spears with Occupy Democrats, and Donald Trump is once again continuing his grift with many Americans and using religion as a means to manipulate and try to coax his followers and supporters into believing him something far greater than he actually is. But this time, he's not alone in the grift. He is getting help from a rather surprising ally in our breaking story today. Now, rocketing up to the tops of the breaking news today, we have just learned that there is some godly advice given to Donald Trump by his quote-unquote spiritual advisor, that is none other than Paula White. And boy, are you not going to want to miss this because it is anything but godly. That was a very brief overview. Paula White is an American televangelist, which, oh boy, is that a whole can of worms. She was also most notably on the Evangelical Advisory Board for Donald Trump back in his 2016 campaign. Now, if you are watching this video, I'm going to assume that you have more than 2 functioning brain cells and realize that Donald Trump is about as far away from a godly man as one can really get. It is actually quite impressive how many actions, how many times this man has said or done something that puts him in stark contrast to the Christian faith. But despite his rampant sins, it would seem that Republicans are standing quite firm behind him, and what's worse is that evangelicals have completely thrown in their lot with Donald Trump, and it is very confusing. Now, of course, many presidents have leaned into their faith and outwardly at least expressed that they have a deep spiritual connection with God, or you name it, but it would seem that Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, Paula White, is taking this to a whole new level. In a breaking story by David Edwards of Raw Story, televangelist Paula White says that Donald Trump asked her, "What does God say?" when seeking advice from her. Now, National Faith Advisory Board President Paula White, a televangelist, confirmed that former President Donald Trump turns to her when he wants a message from God. Trump's spiritual advisor made the remarks during a Monday interview with the former president at an event for the advisory board. Now, that short bit right there is probably enough to make you want to pull your hair out in frustration, assuming that you have any, but it actually gets so much worse than that. Go ahead and take a look at this clip and see White shamelessly shilling for Donald Trump in what is clearly the biggest grift of the century.
For all of you, why don't you just grab the person's hand next to you and we're going to pray together. As we come and just lay hands on President Trump, we believe that God not only hears our prayers, but he answers it. And I think it's amazing. We started in May, these groups, small groups, in May of 2011. And it started as a prayer group. And you came to me and you said, I don't like the way the country's going. And you said, I'm thinking about running for president. You said, what do you think? And I told you what I thought. And then you said to me, what does God say? And when you said that to me, I took that so serious. I called up many of the people who are standing behind you right now. And I asked them to come to Trump Tower. And that is where we had our first meeting and our first time of prayer. And look what the Lord has done. Amen. So we're voting, we're talking, and we're praying. Amen. Danny's going to sing My America.
Look, I'm not here to take shots at anyone's faith or their religion. You are entitled to believe what you want to believe or not believe what you want to believe. That's the great thing about this country. But let's get one thing very clear. Donald Trump is not a Christian nor a godly man. Let's cue up that montage.
Former President Donald Trump finally coming face to face with the woman at the center of his criminal trial, Stormy Daniels. The adult film actress recounting in explicit detail her story of an alleged sexual encounter with Mr. Trump back in 2006.
It's also very clear that Donald Trump has never held or read a Bible and doesn't know a single verse within it.
I'm wondering what 1 or 2 of your most favored Bible verses are and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
And remember, to get that shot of him holding that Bible upside down, he had to do this.
Security forces pushed their way through crowds meters from where Donald Trump was preparing to speak.
Does a real godly man, does a man who believes in the teachings of Christ commit how many felonies was it?
Former President Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. He is the first ever former U.S. president to be convicted of a crime. This afternoon, a jury in New York City determined he conducted business fraud in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through a hush money payment to an adult film star.
Look, let's just be clear. Donald Trump is perhaps a Christian in name only, and even that is a bit of a stretch. And let's not forget his spiritual advisor, Paula White, who is a televangelist, and well, televangelists aren't exactly known for their authentic spiritual connections. And look, these people were never at Trump Tower to offer him spiritual advice. If they were there at all, it was to come up with some sort of game plan to extort their audience, to try to get as much money in tithing or donations as possible. They're taking advantage of something far greater and far better than them. Paula White is a grifter, plain and simple, and it makes perfect sense that she's on stage with Trump because so is he. If you're watching this, you probably don't need this said, but please don't buy what these people are trying to sell you. They do not believe a word of what they are saying or what they're speaking about, and they are only in it for power and influence for themselves. And if you are someone who believes in a higher power or someone of faith, don't let these snakes detract from your beliefs.